criticized for the administration's rejection of the Kyoto Treaty aimed at reducing global warming. Well, we've heard a lot of Amber Alerts of late. Some have been successful in finding kidnapped kids. A proposed bill in Congress would take that system nationwide.
Statistics will show you that of kidnapped kids, 74% of those kids that are found murdered would have been murdered within the first 3 hours.
Robbie Calloway with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. The Dow down about 15, NASDAQ down about 3. This is ABC News.
Hello, this is Mike Mills. In 1982, around the time my band, REM, was releasing its first record, a group of students and faculty at West Virginia University were taking to the airwaves on a brand new radio station. They didn't know it then, but those first staff members were laying the groundwork for what would become one of the top college radio stations in the country. On August 25th, 1982, curious ears in Morgantown tuned into the first broadcast of WWVU-FM. U92 was born.
We sat around the radio, tuned in 91.7, but there was nothing at the designated time. It was dead air. And after 20 minutes of listening to static, we shut off the radio and went back to go do other things. About 3 hours later, I think, my sister yelled, "It's on, it's on!" And then I tuned my tuner into 91.7, and sure enough, it was on. Everyone sounded a little nervous to me. I mean, it sounded like things were sort of happening and the room was being constructed around the microphone and there was noise, and but a lot of excitement. You could hear it on the air.
Fortunately, they wound up with a dynamite original GM in Roy Garrettson.
He was kind of a hard ass about a lot of things. You know, you do it this way, you know, sound like you know what you're doing. And for the most part, that's been carried through. I think that's why the first staff was so strong. You know, Jeff and Tom and Lou and Joey and Holiday Six and all those guys. I mean, they were good.
Roy knew good radio. He knew very tightly crafted radio, very highly produced radio. And it was this mix of Roy's professional standard and all these crazy students that, you know, wanted to play the Grateful Dead or trios, da-da-da, and all the things that we wanted to do, but Roy held us to a professional standard. And that, to me, is why the radio station had that unique sound from the very beginning.
I think for the station in its infancy, he was able to create an atmosphere of tremendous excitement.
When we first went on the air, it was not typical college radio because nobody really knew that much about how to run a radio station. It had some experience, but you know, you'd hear Marshall Tucker or stuff that you know. I think one of the first tunes that I ever played on the air, because at the time it was better than what everybody else was playing, was Asia.
I always remember Ketting telling me when he became music director, I guess this is a little further in time than you're asking about, but when he became music director, he told me he went through the D-rack there and he started pulling out all the Air Supply records and all the Survivor records and the Toto records and all that kind of, he started weeding out all the kind of crap.
There was a few people in the beginning that were reluctant to make that transition, but you know, in town we had CLG and PAQ, and obviously we were trying to do something a little bit different.
I was part of a group of people that helped put the library together, picked music that we thought should be played on this new alternative radio station.
Ketting told me if there's a freaky curly-haired guy that comes to the back door, let him in, it's just Alex. And he came in a few times with the big curly kind of Roger Daltrey hair. I always thought that was natural, by the way.
Well, I actually came to Morgantown in hopes of managing the radio station. And just being as lazy as I was, decided to stick around and wait for him to get tired of the place. But in the meantime, befriended a lot of the staff.
And Alex just kind of fell in because he loved the station, you know, when it went on the air, and he would call in and talk to us and that kind of stuff, and we just started hanging out, me and everybody else, and he was just kind of part of the group because at the time he wasn't really all that much older than us.
One of the great moments about the radio station in its first year on the air, all these changes that had taken place, the radio station morphing its sound from playing jingles the first day on the air to more of the rock and roll produced stagers, and bands like Alabama and Journey falling by the wayside, being replaced by, at that time, you know, lots of U2, lots of British pop, lots of MTV music. You know, MTV was just out. And we were never sure how certain elements of the campus, whether they liked us, whether they didn't like us. And there was a big spring party, and it was towards the end of the first year, and myself and Lou Griffith went up to do phone-in reports back on the air, and Russ Pollock was on the air. And I'll never forget standing up there, and there were thousands of people up on that street, big spring party, people everywhere, and U92 playing from windows of frat houses. People had the U92 buttons on. You know, you'd walk in, you'd borrow somebody's phone, say, hey, I'm from U92, I need a phone-in report, and you know, the doors opened, people were glad to see you, and I just remember looking around thinking, we've arrived.
One of the best parts of working at U92 is discovering that band or album that you've never heard before that becomes an all-time favorite.
Just right about the time I started at U92, I had a friend in California send me tapes of K-Rock in Los Angeles. And they were playing the most fun but bizarre music at the same time. And it was funny, I would get these tapes and I would share them with everybody at the radio station. We would laugh at how weird these songs were. And then about 2-3 weeks later, the records would show up at U92 and we had already been briefed on them.
The Cure, The Head on the Door, that was a big album. Like at U92, that album was like a greatest hits record because we played it for so long and played every song off of it.
We played the Stone Roses record and the Happy Mondays record, Pills, Stills, and Bellyaches when I was music director, and those were big records, and I still listen to those records. I'd say that Stone Roses record is probably like one of my favorites of my time as music director.
I really got into Wilco when I was at the station.
Anything by Wilco was big to me.
Boingo Boingo.
Well, one of the biggest albums for me was the OPP and Naughty by Nature, because I got the platinum album for that one.
Urge Overkill was always one of my favorite albums to play.
Just about any REM record.
REM's Murmur.
I always liked the Smiths, Queen is Dead. Yeah, I'm an 80s person.
Queen is Dead, the Smiths changed everything for me. There were 2 Catherine Wheel records that came out that I really loved, Chrome and Adam and Eve.
Catherine Wheel, Ferment.
The soul mining was a big one.
The soul mining.
I really like Luciano's Where There Is Life. It was released early 90s, and it really kind of changed the direction of reggae music for the 90s.
House of Love, Julian Cope.
OK Computer.
The Bends, Radiohead, that came out before I started working, but I heard it first on U92. Jim played it, and I woke up, the alarm went off, and it was on, and it was a nice morning.
There was a record out that completely changed everything. It's one I really do look at it as a jumping off point for me, and that was Let's Active, Big Plans for Everybody.
Romeo Void.
Blur, Miracle Legion, The Backyard.
Miracle Legion was like this phenomenon, I guess, in the Southeast. It was like an REM kind of sound-alike band, but they were cool.
When I was a DJ, we'd have our heavy rotation, and I would mark on it, hey, this is a cool tune, or I'd put a scat track, last name being Scatterday. Other people liked it, then Frankenberry, Pat Faris, and Bill Paris, my old roommate Mike Jessup, Mike Brauch. They continued to kill me and grill me over it, but it took off. The all-time #1 scat track, according to Steve Frankenberry, is Change the Weather by the Underworld.
Suede, Frontline Assembly, Caterpillar Implant was a good one.
I remember I used to have U92 sale title. Some of the first 5 I had were The Cure's Head on the Door, Midnight Oil's Red Sails in the Sunset. I believe it was the 3rd Chili Peppers album, Uplift Mofo, Party Plan.
And another one that I think is one of the best ones ever is Smashing Pumpkins' Siamese Dream. They kind of took the best of what Nirvana was putting out there and laid a different spin to it.
Nirvana's Nevermind, that came out while I was MD there.
Like This Is Big Out of Dynamite, Jeff Buckley, Grace was a big record.
Joe Jackson.
3 Feet High and Rising from De La Soul was a big album for us.
Actually, the latest Sonic Youth album is probably one of my favorite albums ever.
Autechre, Tri-Repte collection.
Any Billy Bragg CD, talking with the Taxman about poetry, is something that we still play. And it's, you know, still sounds as good now as it did when it first came out.
Music, concerts, and live remotes aside, the best memories of working at the station came from fellow employees.
Aziz Mongi, he was on before me, doing an overnight shift. Somehow, he got gum in the cart machine. So you couldn't use the campus calendar bed. So I was lucky enough to be on after him, and you know, the first time we're doing the campus calendar, I'm kind of like going da 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 da, you know, and then I try to use music, and then Roy comes in after that, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? And I show him what happened, and I never saw him get so mad in my life. I thought he was going to kill him.
We had this phone. Sarge and I shared a room on Beverly Avenue, and this phone goes off. He provided the phone. Sarge's phone was a duck. Okay, so the duck phone goes off. I'm like, hello. And it's Rich, it's this cop. He goes, sir, I've got Rich Scroggs. So such and such an officer, you know. He's at Whitehall, and we need you to pick him up. And there's a Whitehall on the campus. And I'm thinking, why do I need to pick him up at Whitehall? Just walk, go home, take him home. He lives a couple blocks away. And he's like, no, sir, this is Whitehall, Pennsylvania.
I remember after a U92 party, I think it was at Brian Price's house when he lived up on Jones. Bill Paris and I started off at the Foxfire before the party. Had a couple of hurricanes. And so Bill was pretty much primed even before the party started. And from my understanding, you know, the story may have changed over the years, but he went back to Summit where he lived after the party. And sometime in the middle of the night after he had passed out, he'd gotten up, went down to a whole nother floor, walked into somebody else's room that he had no idea who they were. And this guy and his girlfriend were sitting there playing video games, and he just crawled into their bed and just fell asleep. And then he woke up and like half the floor was there staring at him like, who in the hell are you?
I remember sitting in a bar one night, it was very late, and you know, drinking a lot of beer, and I think Bill had had a couple beers. And so last call, getting ready to shut down, I said, Bill, you gonna be okay? You gonna make it home? And he's like, yeah, don't worry about me. He reaches in his coat pocket, I'll be okay. I have a sandwich. So the next day I saw Bill, I said, hey, how's everything going? And he goes, yeah, I don't remember too much about last night. I woke up this morning on my couch covered in crumbs.
So one night I'm at the station, I'm sitting at Kim's desk, and Andrew Kamenitz was on the air. And I wasn't really paying attention to him, to what was on the air. I was, you know, using her computer for some reason. And apparently he had to go to the bathroom. So, you know, he put on the traditional Waterboys song or something like that. And except he exceeded his time limit and the song ended. And, you know, I'm sitting there and I don't really realize that there's dead air. And and I hear from the bathroom, start the damn record! Cue! Play the record, damn it! And I was kind of like, what? And I look, you know, and I'm looking through the whole station, and here comes Kamenitz around the corner from the bathroom, zipping up. He wasn't even fully clothed. He was like pulling his pants up, a la George Costanza, you know, Vandalay Industries.
A group of us packed into the Chevette and went out to Cooper's Rock and took a picture out there.
I remember Brian Price is in it. I think Barry Ronk is in it.
I remember when we got the shot back, Alex and I looked at it, and it looked like the cover, almost reminiscent of the Joshua Tree, because it was in black and white. Jolie Simmons took the picture.
I think it was after a show that we had, there was maybe a first day or something that turned into daylight.
We had been up all night partying. We'd been to Hardee's.
We brought the Saints in, this very small band that we were able to afford, and it might have been after the after party, but I'm not sure. It's a cool photo.
And it turned out really nice. I'd almost love to go back out there and shoot it again, you know, like years and years later.
Of course, Perry Newhouse did have the finest moment in the history of U92, and that would be the infamous Heartstone broadcast. Chill. Chill. Everybody chill.
It was right after the old stadium had been torn down.
This was in the late 80s sometime.
So Mitch and I were at the Foxfire.
And we kind of looked out the window over to where the old stadium used to be, and we just saw this ton of snow on the hill coming down from Woodburn.
Keith and I had a few in us. I don't think we'd been wall walking yet at that point in time in the evening, but enough to think, you know, that hill looks really enticing.
Like, we're going down right now.
So we went and we got our wax boxes and went up on top of the hill, and we would go down one or another, and it had dumped. There was a lot of powder.
Staggered up there, and there was like nobody else up there, and we just flew down the hill.
Keith came up to the top. I had made another run down and had completely wiped out, tumbling head over heels for about 20-30 yards to the bottom.
Then, you know, I'm all buzzed up and I can't find my keys.
I hear Keith up top. He's like, oh, shit. And I was like, oh, what's going on? And he says, I've lost my keys.
And I'm looking around, there's just a ton of snow. I'm like, those things are gone.
I said, Keith, don't worry. I said, we'll find your keys. Hang on 1 second.
And I look over and like this god, this hero, he just like sticks his hand down the snow.
Came back up and said, here are your keys. And I had his keys in his hand.
Pulls up my keys, you know, first try, and it's like...
He just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it either, but I just kind of rolled with it. It was just one of the stupidest dumb luck things ever.
Doing the dude is hard because I don't smoke. And you gotta have a cigarette in your hand when you do the dude.
I would have to have a cigarette. I don't have a cigarette.
Dude! What was that tune?
Dude!
Dude.
Dude.
Fuck, dude!
I never got the dude.
Girls didn't get the dude. The guys got the dude.
Dude, uncool.
Dude. I'm so very disappointed.
Dude, what's going on? Dude, what's going on? This is Alex. You're playing Ugly Mustard again. How'd that happen? Lyrics? Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Meow, meow, meow.
Meow, meow, meow.
Meow, meow. Meow, meow, meow.
Dude, got a minute?
Dude.
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 Dude! Dude!
Wow. You're the man. Dude, was he smoking crack? Dude, look out, dude.
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 Dude. Dude. No. Oh, dude.
Whether road tripping to the 930 Club to see Buffalo Tom, the Syria Mosque for Midnight Oil, or heading to the Coliseum to see four guys from Athens, Georgia in 1989, live music has always been the core of the U92 experience.
U92 actually had a big league presence. We were like a real, big league radio station the day REM came to town. It was such a huge event. It was a core artist for us, and I really felt we covered it as well as we could, as well as any station could.
There was a bunch of us that went to see REM and 10,000 Maniacs in Charleston, West Virginia.
And we got to interview Natalie Merchant, and we hung out backstage with her, and she was just the nicest, most engaging, good storyteller, cool.
Somebody scored just a buttload of tickets to go see Depeche Mode. It was just a fun show. Everybody got drunk. Everybody was loaded by the time Depeche Mode came on. I remember a torrential downpour before the show started with water just running down the sides of Star Lake.
I saw Living Color 3 times.
Seeing Living Color at the Syria Mosque before they ripped it down.
We interviewed Russell Simmons from the John Spencer Blues Explosion. And he was great to interview, lots of fun. And we had a really long conversation about Jerry Clower, who happens to be his favorite country comedian.
Seeing Pulp at the 930 Club was pretty awesome.
Have to be Philip Glass. This CAC.
We saw the Hoodoo Gurus graffiti in Pittsburgh, and it was one of those, and the Bangles opened up. That was really cool, but it was one of those, yay, your name's going to be at the door. It'll be fine, no problem.
Yeah, with Sue Kennedy.
Yeah, thanks,
She
Sue.
made arrangements with the record company, supposedly.
Probably the best live show I saw was in Pittsburgh. I saw the Replacements. I've never seen a louder show.
The Replacements, to this day, the loudest show I've ever seen.
Dave had tickets to see Peter Murphy here in D.C., actually, over to Lisner Auditorium on the GW campus. I remember we went to that show. I'd never seen Peter Murphy before. I was very excited. And there was a power failure or some kind of a computer crash. And all of his electronic stuff went down. And he just grabbed an acoustic guitar, took the center of the stage on a spotlight, ripped out about 4 or 5 acoustic tunes while they were getting things configured. And quite honestly, the rest of the show was very anticlimactic after that.
And we saw Marilyn Manson before he was a huge rock star at the Limelight.
It was during CMJ.
Zach got really violent in the mosh pit.
I don't know, there was just something about seeing Zach in the mosh pit of Marilyn Manson when he whips out his 22-foot leather prosthetic phallic piece.
Took his shirt off and just went crazy in the mosh pit with these guys that were much bigger than him.
Seeing Zach's reaction to that, because I was standing up on a balcony sort of looking down into the mosh pit, was just a really beautiful thing.
Tie between Radiohead at Metropole and Catherine Wheel at NYU.
The wedding present also at the 930 Club.
We went to see Stephen Malkmus, we got to meet him. They were like, oh, you want to get an ID for his girlfriend? It's like, you guys want to get an ID from Steve? And we're like, yeah, that's cool. When she walked away, we're like, oh my God!
Road tripping to see Let's Active in North Carolina.
Keith Matern and I want to say maybe even Rich Scroggs was with us. We went up to see the Ramones. I just figured it was going to be pure debauchery when we got backstage. And we got back there and, Joey Ramone offered us a chocolate yoo-hoo. They literally had just a bucket, like one of those big bins that you can fill with ice, all chocolate yoo-hoos. That's what they had. That was the crazy, insane backstage with the Ramones.
We all say and do stupid things from time to time. Why do so many of them have to happen when the on-air light is on?
Well, I think as most people probably remember, my on-air belch probably stands out as it was immortalized in the 10th anniversary commemorative cassette tape. Somebody told me they practically ran off the road when they heard that. I personally wasn't all that embarrassed, but it was, I suspect, a bit of embarrassing radio.
I used to have to do the classical show. Racked up, you know, something on the reel-to-reel. It was the classical hours, the WWVU classical hours on a big, you know, 15-inch reel. And I put it on heads out, you know, or heads in, I should say. And it just starts off with a single note, right? Which, backwards, sounds about the same. So I checked it in Q, and I just rolled it and then turned it down. I started doing other things. I started listening to some other music in Q, and I get the call, you know, it's like, buddy, I think this is on backwards, and I turn it back on. It's like,
Wags and I were doing the morning show. It was like a year ago, and he's like, he said something that was real crappy, and I was like, boy, that's shitty. And I kind of meant to say shoddy, but like, you know, I also kind of meant to say shitty too.
Yeah, I was on the air for like 3 hours, and I still wake up in a cold sweat every time I think about my being on the air at U92. And it was a train wreck. It was an absolute train wreck.
The pumpkin carving contest for the Halloween broadcast, I think last year, we had some crazy guy who we decided to talk to, and like, how's it going? How's the pumpkin carving going? He's like, going pretty good, but let me tell you something. You should come on down to the VFW tonight and watch me beat the fuck out of somebody in the boxing match. And of course everybody's like, oh, he said the F-bomb.
One evening shift I was on the air, and Rich Scroggs and Perry Newhouse were in the booth with me. And I said, Perry, watch the board for me. I want to run out and get a Coke. So I kind of put a long song on, ran outside, came back in. But I ran a little late, and the song was running out. So I just slammed the door, turned on the mic, and was back selling. And I noticed the handwriting wasn't quite mine. And I said, that was Big Bad Hard On by the Dicks. Which it wasn't. And those guys laughed so hard, and I started laughing. So about 30 seconds of just total laughter in the booth.
Stop. Being a U92 employee isn't only about the work. The long, sometimes stressful hours have lent themselves to some pretty cathartic blowouts over the years, though the details may be a little sketchy.
To the best of my knowledge, U92 did not have any parties.
There were good parties, but I'll be honest, it's like a blur.
Yeah, my memories are kind of dim, to be honest with you.
I don't remember a lot.
Everything kind of mashed together.
I think there was a U92 party at Becky Wentz's house where, I don't know. I don't remember that one.
No, all the parties were wild, and the fact that I didn't remember them just should let you know just how good they were.
Where is my mind?
There was a string of parties near the end of my time, around 80, around 90, 89, somewhere in there. And it all started when Steve Frankenberry's apartment burned down, and it all ended when Joel and Kim got married.
I was really at U92 sort of in the Club 54 heyday of the parties when the shot chambers existed and such. But I'd have to say the most memorable party had to have been the joint bachelor and bachelorette party for Kim and Joel's wedding.
I don't remember anything.
They had her wedding shower and they had the bachelor party the same day, and all the guys from the bachelor party came over to the shower at Kelly Zanotti's and did a little striptease for all the ladies that were there.
We did get naked.
There are pictures of me at Kelly Zanotti's house, which is where the Kim's bachelorette party was, where we all stripped down to boxer shorts and did a striptease. And I was wearing these R.C. Cola boxer shorts that John Page gave me because I was in my tighty-whitey phase.
Steve Frankenberry wearing a hot pink bikini. I think that picture is burned into my brain.
Little G-strings
and a pink bikini will be burned into my memory forever.
And there's pictures of me, which I'm sure they'll be shown at the reunion, of me like thrusting my crotch towards Kim. And I don't think she's ever gotten over that.
Probably DiNardo's. Well, no, I can't even go into that. I can't talk about the piano playing incident at Joel's bachelor party.
Yeah, and Brian DiNardo played the piano in an interesting fashion. So
With his member.
I'm not proud to admit it, but yeah, we did that, and it was a blast.
There was a time Keith and Chuck were in a bathtub. Have you heard about that? Yeah, MVP.
It was at the party. It was at my place on Jones Avenue, though. That was an absolute dump. It was perfect for parties.
Chuck got in first, and then
There was water in the tub.
we had a life preserver.
Keith, I think, started it, and then Chuck followed him in, and I think someone pushed BP in on top.
I don't know. I was just really drunk.
There were lots of great U92 parties from my era, most of which took place at Matt and Jim's house. I do believe, Matt and Jim, you still have my keg tap somewhere. Hope to get that back one day because I have so many keg parties in my New York City apartment.
Somebody decided, hey, let's do lemon drops. That's a good idea. Okay, let's get a bottle and do some lemon drops. So Matt and I went to Farmore, get this big bottle of Citron and a bottle of green stuff. I don't even know what it was, with a lizard on it. Papa John's Pizza came, were lemon drops, lizard stuff, and I consumed a lot, I think, in a short amount of time with some pizza. And it hit me pretty hard, and I was like, I'm going to bed. And I went in, I found Jim's room, like it was my own house. I just went into Jim's room, shut the door, and was like, good night. And the next morning, I wake up, and I have a few moments of like, what the hell, where am I? And I look over the bed, and there's this perfect puddle of vomit, like this perfectly formed patty on the carpet. And I was like, interesting. And like I kind of sit up, and there's like some on my knee. And I find Jim, who's in Zach's room. And I say, Jim, who puked on me? And he's like, you did, you asshole!
Mike Whitten got raped on Alan Levesque's floor. Mike Whitten is in one of the rooms, and a bunch of people are in this room. And this girl who didn't work at the station, I have no clue who she was, how she got there, who she was with, but she just jumped on Mike Whitten. I mean, literally was sexually assaulting him. It became known as the party where Mike Whitten got raped. He didn't seem too offended by it, but I don't know if he would have had much choice even if he was.
We go to the sports page for Alan's birthday. It's his 25th birthday, me and a group of guys from the radio station. We drink outrageous amounts of beer. We take many, many, many shots. My girlfriend and Matt's girlfriend got disgusted and went home. We got really, really drunk. We stayed until the very, very end of the night, until those big-ass, like, monkey bouncers that the sports page had were going to come and kick us out. And then Alan went upstairs to his apartment, which was right there downtown, and he put his ass through a window. Broke the window, and then I went home, fell face first on my girlfriend's floor, and peed my pants.
The end of the year party when Scott Carlisle fell down and hurt his leg, and Alex took him to the hospital, and myself, Brian Price, Chuck Woodford, and Ed Lee, we all decided that we were going to bring Alex donuts to the emergency room. And by the time we eventually made it to the emergency room after a bunch of other things happening, Alex had already left, and so it's Scott Carlisle.
And who ate the donuts?
We ate the donuts. Though I think that we may have gone back to Alex's apartment when he was living in South Park. And, well, the night ended that we were going to try and steal Alex's hubcaps. But we ended up not doing it. But I think we threw donuts at his house.
The best party story is easy. 4 words. Sarge Fest, Scott Carlisle. For those of you that were there, you know what I'm talking about. For those of you that weren't, you don't want to know.
We had a birthday party for our other roommate, Steve Sargent, in February. It was just an excuse to have a party, and it ended up being such a blowout that we dubbed it Sarge Fest and ended up having 3 more for the next 3 years. with the final one being at his sister's house. I liken it to the Beatles when at the end of Let It Be, they're up on the roof playing, and it's like kind of the end of an era, right? And the cops come up and kind of say, like, I know you're the Beatles and all, but you gotta stop. And that's how Sarge Fest's legacy ended. I mean, we were hanging out, packed, tons of U92 people, past and present, and the cops just kind of came in with shotguns.
Put your hair back, we get to leave.
What is U92? It's a safe haven from the glut of commercial radio, an outlet to flex the creative muscle, a place where lifelong friends have been made, a great place to take a nap when you should be in class. It's the birthplace of careers and a sanctuary for those who look at life a bit differently.
When you get right down to it, U92 is composed of staff that mostly doesn't want to work in radio. Their intention is to work there, have fun, and then they move on. They become accountants, they become school teachers. Not everyone who goes through the door there ends up in the media, or really ever intends to. So I would have to say the real unsung hero of U92 are those people, because guys like myself who have moved on into some role in the media would not have had a radio station to work at had it not been for those folks. They're the ones who kept the station on 24/7. There's more of them than me. And without them, I wouldn't have a training. I wouldn't have had a place to learn. It just wouldn't have existed. So, thank you. You know who you are.
I'm not beating off you, I will rearrange your scales if I can, and I can. I wish you eat each one of you, and you, me, you. I had a hat and a sun reached down, yanked it up, slapped it on my head. All the people gathered, but I carry this burden. We are young despite the years, we are concerned, we are hope despite the times. Oh, sign out these days, happy throngs take this joy wherever you carry this burden. We are young despite the years, we are concerned, we are hope despite.
This is Mike Mills. Thank you for making our band a part of your history. Happy 20th birthday, U92.
Happy throngs take this joy